recording, so you can go whenever you'd like.
Hell yeah.
All right. This is our Halloween special.
Our Spooktacular.
Spooktacular special. We have Jeff Scott in the house. He's the house pianist for how long? When did you start working here? In the 90s, right?
95. December 6th, 1995.
Ooh.
yeah.
That's right around your birthday, too, isn't it?
Yeah, December 18th.
See, I know
So
my
it was
fucking,
a nice
I know
birthday present.
I know my Sagittarius is when I see them. Thank you for coming to visit.
Thank you for having me.
What are you wearing? I know some people can't see, but we are on YouTube too. What's your costume?
Oh,
Did it break?
my God.
That's good luck. Hey, let's start smashing and smashing. Hey, that's my job, dude.
Smashing
Are you
pumpkin.
Gallagher too? Are you?
This is why you
Dude,
shouldn't wear a costume and
stealing
try to
my
do
thunder.
things. I am. This is my Tarman from the movie Return of the Living Dead that I made for Halloween last year, and I'm gonna wear them this year and next year, and then come up with something else crazy.
You made it yourself, correct?
Yeah. Well, I bought like store prosthetics. And,
Yeah.
You know, fashioned it all together instead of gluing it on my face. Put it on like a bodysuit, and so it's like a glorified mask.
God, fascinating. You do this every year, by the way. Like not every year, but since I've known you,
Yeah.
always have the craziest costumes. You're like, yeah, I've been working on you had a dinosaur one
Yeah,
that
one.
you worked on for like ever, for like, he made it out of like milk cartons. Or milk
water bottles
gallons, yeah.
and milk bottles, and
It's crazy.
the toes were made out of little liquor bottles.
Nice.
And yeah, it was.
It was fun to make. Let's just say that.
Yeah, right. It was like wearing a big backpack, and then
Yeah.
I had ski poles to work the legs and the arms, and everything else hung free. But it was 10 feet tall by 14 feet long.
Jesus.
That was
And,
crazy.
And it got covered like around the world. I have a friend
Yeah.
in Wales and one in Ireland that were like, did you do your dinosaur this year? I saw it they talked about in Los Angeles, these crazy
Yeah.
costumes.
Jeez. How long did it take again?
The dinosaur took about a year.
A year. Wow.
Yeah, and the first year, the neck snapped in half before I even got up to the street fair, so
I
it only
remember.
had 2 years of work.
Yeah, I know. That's awesome.
Then I decided to go, something simple like this, like Tarman. But
Yeah.
this is like a glorified, bodysuit costume. It's easy to put on instead of normally you'd glue the prosthetics to your face and
That's
stuff.
so
and-
much work. Then you're walking. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
It was cool watching you put it in like posting, like as you were making it.
Yeah.
So that you could actually see
The
like
process.
the whole thing as you
Yeah.
went through it.
Yeah, I always like to catalog stuff like that. Like technically the arm muscles in here, those I made. Those are kitchen sponges, one of my favorite things. Glue kitchen sponges together, cut them out,
And then
color
paint 'em?
them and
Yeah.
with latex and stuff. Yeah, because it's got to be able to move. And then
Yeah.
the rest of it's all like heavy pond liner plastic, and then I pour baby oil all over it, so it's all nice and gross and shiny Halloween night.
Fuck yeah. It's not the only thing you pour baby oil
That's
in.
all. That's all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can't be lazy to do that, basically. Like me, I'm
Yeah.
just like, oh my God. I would have gave up and like started crying or something. I wouldn't have done it. I almost gave up today. But then I was like, all I really have to do is
Well,
just put a mustache on. It's pretty sad. I look just like Gallagher.
Yeah.
Really? It's so funny.
It's really weird. But
That's so
I
funny.
looked at him. I was like, for some reason, he always reminded me of my brother.
Yeah.
My brother reminds me of, we used to call him Ace Ventura.
Uh-huh.
So he reminds me of Jim Carrey and Gallagher. So I was like, oh, it popped in my head. I was like, what can I possibly be that would make sense? And he used to come to the comedy. I've met him here too before, actually.
Yeah.
He had, he was selling it was Gallagher, but as Picasso t-shirts.
Ugh.
He came in and he was like, he asked for a shot of tequila, and I was like, "Are you Gallagher?" And it was really weird because I remember growing up and watching him and stuff, and he was like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Oh, let me give you a good shot of añejo, and like it's on the house, on the
You
comic
should have
tab or
given
whatever."
him like vodka infused with watermelon.
Oh my God, he would have fucking killed me. But he was nice to me. But yeah, it was just like one of those.
Yeah, he performed a few times
Here?
in my first years.
Really?
Yeah. Once in the OR, and I remember a few times in the main room.
Okay.
But, like I said, by 95, 96, I don't know. I think he was still doing tours, but he didn't come in as much
Yeah.
as on a regular basis.
Yeah, I was like just looking him up today, and it was like his net worth was like he's like went broke and lived in a bunch of people were just talking shit online. So it's like you can't ever remember like really look into that. And then like, I guess his brother took his act and stuff like that. But anyway, we're not here to talk about Gallagher.
I'm gonna take over Holtzman.
You're gonna take over his act?
I'm gonna be Brian Holtzman when
You heard it here first.
when Brian has an unfortunate accident.
You're gonna be Holtzman too. I love that. So you've been here for a while, and this is the Halloween episode. So I know you covered when they had this lady come in for Ghost Hunters. Were you on that episode?
Not the Ghost Hunters.
Okay.
But that I was here for that.
Okay.
And then I eventually did for 3 years a show called Haunted Midnights.
Okay.
When
I was here for a couple of those.
On a weeknight when we had nothing. Believe it or not, a few years ago, like 10 years ago, the main room was not filled every
It's
night.
dead.
Now,
Yeah.
now we have 2 shows in it almost every single night.
Yeah.
But I did a midnight show called Haunted Midnights, and I dressed up like Schizo, this zombie ghoul character that I do. It's a body makeup type thing, so that one's commitment.
Yeah.
Although I've gotten it down to under 2 hours. First time I did it was 4 hours because there's full legs and
Yeah.
I'm an idiot. That's why.
Dude, no, I love it.
But I hosted the show and I presented like a history of Ciro's, the nightclub that now is the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
Showed old pictures, had a video about the ghosts. Gus being the main ghost that people used to see, that was one of the mob guys when Bugsy Siegel ran this club in 1940 and 41. And then we'd have a magician perform from the Magic Castle. And then we do a Lights Out tour. And the only showroom that was open in the middle of the week was the original room. All the rest of the club, and again, we couldn't do this now, but the rest of the club, we'd turn all the lights out. And one of our sponsors had given us hundreds of little miniature flashlights. So each person got a flashlight, and we took people in groups of 20.
Yeah.
So it was a very intimate little tour, and a couple of the door guys and myself and one of the managers.
People.
Yeah. Some people would jump out
under
with
the
it.
tables and stuff.
And of course, we'd come down to the basement, and this was an area filled with boxes and old posters and
couches,
scary
West
shit.
May couch,
Not like this wonderful space we have now.
Yeah.
But so I mean, technically, also we probably couldn't be walking people through the club in the dark as a legal issue.
I know, right? Now we're like so corporate.
Well, but on the other hand, it's good. There are a lot of things that
it's more
Mitzi
money.
was like, no, but you have to have fire extinguishers. No. She wanted to pay West Hollywood to put a traffic light right at our driveway of the Comedy Store so she could have a left turn arrow to turn into her own club.
I like her. I like the
love that.
style though.
Yeah.
There's enough traffic. I mean, now it would make sense because there's so much, traffic in and out of here, especially with the Ubers and the taxis and stuff.
But that's
like that.
helped
People can't
business
get
too,
in.
because people don't have to pay 20 or 35 or 40 on the weekends to park.
Yeah.
You spend $7-10 and you're here and you can
Yeah.
drink and
Yeah.
get home safe.
It is. It's way better.
It's a huge difference.
It's changed a lot. Yeah. I mean, it made me become an alcoholic. So I'm like, I don't have to drive. I was driving before, but now I'm like, I can really, drink as much as I want and not have to worry about it.
Yeah, I've learned the Comedy Store for my alcoholism too. I take no responsibility.
Yeah. Zero.
Well, I think I switched to, I used to drink like sweet drinks, vodka.
Tonics.
Vodka tonic. And one night by mistake, one of the waitresses or bartender made me a vodka soda.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is fine. I'll drink it. Then I started drinking vodka soda. And I couldn't believe how much weight I lost just from the sugar in the tonic.
Yeah.
And then I went to martinis, which you can't drink 8 or 9 of those.
Oh, yeah. The dirties. I love martinis, too.
So, I mean, on Saturday when I'm here for 2 shows,
Yeah.
I may have 4 because I'm not going to do anything the next day.
Yeah.
But it's like 2 or 3 martinis and you're done.
Oh, my God. There's so much alcohol in those.
But again, I lost this weight. I went out at one point when I moved up here from San Diego and I was still, drinking at home and cooking and drinking here. And I was 193.
Wow.
if you can believe that. And it was all in my
wow.
gut. It was just all stomach. And now I'm back to like 157, where, pretty much what I've normally been
Right.
as an adult. I wasn't 157 when I was born.
Lucky you.
140.
Yeah.
Lucky mom.
Breaking the scales right now.
I was born hoof first. I got hate out.
Oh, God.
I hate it.
Oh, those are the cap pieces.
Mhm.
Those are, they're a little annoying to work with, aren't they?
They're disgusting. I want to go
Yeah.
throw up. Is anybody okay with that? If I just
No,
use
Yeah,
no,
them
it,
in
no.
it does, because it's the gum
fix-it-it?
adhesive. It'll feel like it.
Just
Yeah.
swallow it. I'm sure it'll get you high.
Oh, I just did.
Oh, good.
But it's
good,
like
yeah.
sealing
Take a
my
sip of
lips
water.
shut.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because
Oh, hell yeah. Who got me water? Thank you.
Water?
That's awesome. I could have used this 20
Here.
minutes
Our
ago.
producer got us one. My assistant did. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. He looks really thirsty. Yeah, he got himself into some trouble.
How'd you decide to come here, Jeff? To even think about auditioning? I mean,
To the comedy store?
yeah. Or I mean, how did?
And it was a very random call. Although I met a sketch comedy group when I first moved to LA. Actually, take it one step back before that. I went to the Gong Show at the Rage,
hell yeah.
the gay disco,
God.
and I eventually became friends with the girl that hosted it, Beverly. She does this character called the Lovely Carol. So it's a woman doing a
Okay.
drag woman. But it was my first night in town, and it was a Tuesday night, and I, had visited this bar when I was coming up here from San Diego. Now that I lived here, I thought, well, I'll go and watch that, Gong Show. And there was this really funny girl on it. She was a legal secretary, and I don't think she won the show, but I saw her afterwards and introduced myself to her. And I said, hi, I'm Jeff Scott. I just moved here to LA. I think you're really funny. And she said, oh, thank you. She said, hi, I'm Sherry Shepard. And, so Sherry and I were talking. And she's like, well, what are you doing? And I'm like, right now? And she's like, yeah, we go across the street to this little cabaret club called the Pied Piper. Or no, called the Rose Tattoo.
Okay.
And sometimes Joan Rivers will pop in there, and Bruce Valanche, and crazy cool cabaret singers. And they'll do like a singer will do a couple songs, and then they put one comic on. So Sherry was going to go over and get a set. So we walk in, and standing at the door is this lady that I knew from Cape Cod when I lived down there, which is where I first started impersonating Pee-wee, at her club, the Pied Piper in Provincetown. And I say, Linda, what are you doing here? And she's like, this is my Los Angeles club, the Rose Tattoo. What are you doing here? And I said, I just moved here. And she's like, well, get on in. And through that place, I met a couple other female comics and played for my friend Penny Wiggins, who became, she was the Amazing Jonathan's assistant for many years up in Las Vegas. And Penny had a show she started called The Sirens of Satire. And it was an all-female stand-up show. And I, just played the piano. We did it at various venues. And then one time she got it booked at the Improv. Make sure we're not getting hit by lightning for saying it. So, and because it was an all-female show, I got to know a lot of, female comics right off the bat. And I think she ran that show there for 7 years, once a month. And I played piano for it for the first 3. And then I was, going gig to gig, typical actor thing, trying different things. I did one movie, I did one TV show as an extra. And then my neighbor, I came home, I was doing temp work. Yeah. And I had temp work for like 6 months, just data processing, something really stupid at a law firm.
Sounds so boring.
No, it was
not your style
death.
at all.
No, death on a stick, just filing files. But when I came home that day, it was a week before Christmas, and they're like, today's your last day. And I'm like, okay, well, I got the bills covered for the next couple of months. And I came home, and my neighbor had left a message. He's like, hey, I found this ad on television, like God, what is it that runs, ads, free ads on public access?
Okay.
Public access television. And it just said Hollywood nightclub seeks pianist with a phone number. And he gave it to me. And I'm like, well, I don't play for singers. I have to, because I don't read sheet music.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I've played for singers, but I have to listen to a song and work it out. I can't just sit
Play
at
by
a club.
ear, right?
Right. I can't
Okay.
just sit at a club and play for people because most singers come in with their sheet music ready to go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's just not the type of thing. So I put the note on my desk and let it sit there. And it was almost a year later. And I thought, I'm just curious. I wonder what that was. And I called and, no. I'm sorry. It was a couple weeks later.
Yeah.
And I called just out of curiosity, and they said, "World Famous Comedy Store, can I help you?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm calling about this piano job that I heard." And they're like, "Let me put you through to the vice president, Mike Becker, who was the vice president at the time of the club, and also the head piano player, because there was only him and Mitzi,
Yeah.
and the accountant. That was it.
Wow.
Other than the waiters.
Those three trolls.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it the same accountant, by the way?
It
Is it still
was a different one back then.
Okay.
But yeah, Bob's been here forever.
Forever? Yeah. Wheeler. Yeah. Okay.
So, I talked to Mike Becker, and he's like, "Gee, I wish you'd called me a couple weeks ago. We've already filled the position, but give me your phone number, and if we're looking for pianists again." So then, cut to I was doing temp work, and told a week before Christmas or so. Well, or no. November. It was like the end of November. And they're like, this is your last day. And I come home and there's just one message on my answering machine. It's "Hi, this is Mike Becker from the Comedy Store. I talked to you about a year ago. Would you be interested in coming in to audition?" And I went in the next day, and then I started. It was either the 6th or the 9th. I think it was the 9th, actually.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, well, I'll play here a couple nights a week for, a little while, and then you'll go on to some other gig, and didn't realize, I've found my home.
Jeez.
But all the stair stepping with the theater and playing for the female comics and stuff, I met people like Taylor Negron and Steve Moore, who was another piano player here who vouched for me.
Yeah.
So it's almost like everything I did in the
Led you here.
the 10 or 12 years before I got here was connecting me to the store. It's like, this is where I'm supposed to be.
So they hire you without even an audition?
Oh,
or
no,
did you
no.
come in and audition
I
for
came
it?
in and
Okay.
I played piano for
I'm
him.
just amazed you
and
saved that number for
I know.
a year.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Crazy.
I
Yeah.
can't save anything. I'm like, I don't even know, unless my phone remembers it. Unless there was a time before. But yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, well, Mike, and that's when they had a Rolodex,
Right.
And he had
Yeah.
just a whole thing that was just pianists, phone numbers for pianists, because a lot of times pianists just are here for a couple months, or
And they're out.
And they're
or
flaky,
you're on
or
a
they're
boat,
musicians or something,
right. So it never hurts to have, like, I play 5 nights a week, and then there's 2 guys that play the other 2 nights, and then there's 3 other guys, so that we have substitutes to cover all, like. So I can take off for vacation or Halloween night.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's a ton of them. And Mondays is always alternating. It's always a different guy. But yeah, forever. I remember seeing you, and I was like, oh my God, this is insane. You're like a part of the old store. Like Mitzi, you knew Mitzi. She loved you. Like it's really fun.
My
to
first
know
year
you.
here was Richard Pryor's last year performing in public.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Richard was in the original room on Wednesday and Friday. And on Wednesday, he'd come in early. And I was early, like 7:30, while I'm setting up the keyboard. And he would have a martini and sit in Mitzi's chair in the back of the OR. And she would sit beside him. I'd get the piano set up, I'd get my coffee, and I'd sit down with them. And until showtime started, it's just, now I'm like, I guess maybe if I'd thought about who I was talking to and just sitting here with, it might have overwhelmed me, because I'm pretty good at talking to somebody, even if I'm really like, oh my God, I love this person, but just talking like normal, like when you meet a celebrity or something.
Yeah.
But it's still like, oh, how did I get so damn lucky
Yeah.
to be able to sit with Richard? And then on Fridays,
Because you're so awesome. You're cool, dude. You have to be at that level to even speak to those people, or even, for them to even want you around, to be
and
quite honest.
Friday nights, Richard would sit in the van. His driver, Tim, would pull in and park, and so I'd come out and tell him every 15 minutes we're this far and this far, because he could walk a little, but he needed a person on each side of his arm to steady him up to the stage. And while they did that, I brought a chair out from behind the stage and took the boom mic from the piano, so Richard would sit down and talk. And sometimes it was maybe only 5-7 minutes.
Yeah.
Other times it was about 20, but he was telling stories of his life. He wasn't doing comedy. And with the MS, as advanced as it was back then, he some nights had a hard time talking.
Yeah.
And then other nights, something would just break through, and he would say something, and you'd realize, I'm in the presence of brilliance.
Wow.
The legend of comedy right here. I mean, this is the house that Pryor built with Mitzi, and I got to sit with. As a matter of fact, I took one photo. I asked Bobby Luddington, one of our old managers. Hi, Bobby. I asked him to take a picture for me, and actually, I think I asked him to ask Mitzi if I could have a picture with her and Richard. And the picture's so cute. Richard's sitting there, and I'm crunched down beside him, and Richard's
I've seen that
holding
picture.
my hand.
It's at the front bar. I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
And then Mitzi's on the other side of Richard, and she's looking at me, and she's got this big grin because she's excited that I'm excited. She knows what this moment
It means a
is.
lot. Yeah.
And I didn't take another picture for 10 years. And
Why would you?
yeah, really.
Yeah,
And then
we're
my
gonna top
niece,
it.
then my nieces got into, junior high and high school, and they're like, Uncle Jeff, you don't have any photos, you're not on MySpace. And we tell our friends about, because there was no Facebook at that point, it was MySpace.
Yeah.
And so to satisfy my nieces, I decided to start taking some photos of, the club, the building, and then I built a couple pages Facebook. One is called Ciro's Nightclub.
Those
Yeah,
pictures
So-
are
you're the
great.
So I-
house.
Yeah.
What is it called? A historian, right?
Well,
Basically.
archivist.
Yeah.
Archivist.
Yeah, yeah.
Archivist? Yeah,
Yes,
it means
yeah.
I collect shit.
Yeah, I love it. No,
I mean,
that's great.
I collect the stories, but Argus Hamilton is our main historian because he's
Okay.
been here for almost 45 years.
Yeah, yeah.
43, I think, 44, something like that. But yeah, I've collected things like down in the basement where we are right now. Like I said, used to be boxes and piles of stuff. And I'm so glad that every now and then I just, there's 8 of these posters. I'll just take one of these. A poster that's from the dunes in Las Vegas, where it's it's Dice and Howie Mandel and Roseanne Barr and the
That's so
lineup.
cool. Yeah.
And because when they did the podcast studios down here, a lot of that stuff was like, oh, this is just old pitch it.
No,
so a lot of
don't
things-
do that.
a lot of
Everything's
things
like
got
gold
pitched.
down here. I got so upset when I saw the couches and
Yeah.
even the chandeliers.
Dude,
I was like, oh
Pauly
my God,
Shore's
these are-
personal belongings are in a box over here. I think they threw it away because it wasn't here.
Well, a lot of Paulie's old posters and show
But
material.
and
was
he had a
down
bi-
there also.
he had a binder full of his show that he was
Oh,
shooting
yeah.
at that
Oh, I
time.
know what you mean. Yeah.
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 And someone just tossed it. It was actually kind of interesting.
It
I
was
wanted
neat
to
to
steal
see,
it.
wasn't
I
it?
wanted to steal it. I was like, I'm kind of curious to see what Paulie's process is like. This is really fucking fascinating that you can just look at this book and read through it.
Yeah.
And see all of the shot directions he had for what he wanted to do.
Man.
Yeah. So with all the pictures to make my nieces happy, I started on Facebook the
Okay.
Comedy Store Archives.
Okay.
And so I've gone back to photos of the posters from the Dunes Hotel and at Westwood, because there used to be boxes down here in the basement, boxes and boxes of photos. And I asked Mitzi if I could, take them home and scan them. She's like, why? And I'm like, for historical sakes, to preserve things. She's like, okay. She had no idea what MySpace was back then,
Yeah.
And then, so I've sort of found a little way to share my collection with everybody through those Facebook pages.
Thank you. No,
And
seriously.
what is really neat is some of the old comics are now sending me their stuff before
Really?
they move on to the big comedy showroom in the sky. Yeah, I've
Jeez.
gotten a lot of neat old
from who? Like
pieces.
what?
Well,
like what's-
my
what
buddy
piece?
Lou Deck, that was
Okay.
the video head of video department. The video room, our
Where
back bar-
now
the
it's
bar-
the VIP
Yeah.
room, but it was a video room when I first started working
right,
here.
and that was Lou's office, and
Okay.
there were shelves all around there,
Old
floor
video.
to ceiling, and
Yeah,
because every
videotapes.
single show got videotaped. And Mitzi was approached by this company that wanted to do a comedy cable channel. And it was going to be called the Comedy Network. And Mitzi wanted to own all of it. And they're like, well, no, that's okay. You can have all your content, and we'll call it Comedy Central.
Wow.
Even from the
That's-
beginning, they were fucking comedy.
They were. They really
Right
were.
from the get-go, they were Dude, I would do anything to watch those videos. That's unbelievable.
Oh,
'Cause
I
was-
can't even imagine what's
What
on
happened
there.
to those
Well, and
videos?
I-
Are they still available? Like, when did they stop taking video here?
That's a great question.
I know that the main room shows, since the main room was only open Friday and Saturday, Tuesday for Fat Tuesday, and then Friday and Saturday for our house
That's
shows.
even when I started,
And
yeah.
and I know those were still taped so that Mitzi could, come in and see them during the day, because before she was getting older, she was here every single night.
Mm-hmm.
She'd sleep up in her office and get up the next morning, and I mean, she eat, drank, and sleep. Eat, drank, and
Well, slept the comedy
slept.
store?
Yeah, I'm like, that doesn't sound right.
Slept?
Yeah,
Slept.
Slept. Slept the comedy store.
She's Jewish. It would work. Yeah, there's a shower back there. I mean, she could shower, do all
Yeah.
the jams. But
Yeah.
yeah, she loved the place, and
Yeah.
that's why it's like when I see you, it makes me happy because I feel like you're a part of somebody that cared about this place so much, and you lose that when it's good for it to be really busy like it is now, but
Yeah.
it's also like loses its essence a little bit, like of. Like I'm like, people don't even know. I'm like, you don't even know. Like,
Yeah. Well, and in the
you
past
know,
6 years that we've gotten so busy, nobody's seen any ghost things. And
That's what I was wondering about. No more ghost sightings.
no, I think that just like, putting the podcast studios down here and just updating some of the stage lighting and the walls and, putting up new mirrors and stuff, I think that's enough remodeling in the club that they are like, all right, this isn't our place anymore.
You
Because
think
people
so?
people would see Gus. Gus is I think his real name
Did
was
Gus hang out in
Anthony.
the main room? Where did he hang
Yeah,
out?
yeah,
at?
usually. Yeah, Gus was a mob guy that worked
Okay.
for Bugsy Siegel, and he was here to collect the debts. And a lot of times people would see, sort of out of the corner of your eye, you'd see this guy sitting in the main room. Or there was a girl I remember that was here for some specialty show in the main room, and I was setting up the microphones because I was working the sound that day. And she came out of the dressing room. She's like, "Who's that creepy old guy sitting in there?" And I'm like, "There's nobody back there." And she's like, "Yeah, there's a dude in an old suit sitting there." And I'm like, "Oh, it sounds like you saw Gus, our doorman, the ghost."
Oh
And
my
she's like, "No,
God.
this isn't the ghost." And I'm like, "Okay," and because she's been standing right by that door, so nobody walked in or out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Show me." And she's like, "He's sitting right around the." And she walks in and she's like, "There's no one there." She looks behind the bar. There's no one there. She looks in the other room. There's no
Oh
one
my
there.
God.
And then she really started to freak out. And I said, "I told you saw Gus."
Yeah, that's terrifying.
Because people will see a solid apparition, but it's
Yeah.
just, again, sort of out of the corner of your eye.
Yeah.
Other people have actually seen him dead on, too.
Have you seen anything?
I have had 3 different things happen. In the backstage green room of our main room,
Okay.
Vicky Barbalak had opened the show one night and had left her costumes and her wigs and her makeup and all that shit in the dressing room area
Yeah.
of the backstage green room. And I was back there washing my hands, and the floor is tile back there. And it's so clear that Freddie Soto was on stage at the time. So it was
Oh,
maybe, second or third act, something like that, somewhere
Yeah.
within the first hour of the show. And I hear click, 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 because the tile floors it's like black marble
Yeah.
in the dressing rooms
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
backstage in the main room. So a woman's high heels, it's very obvious, click, 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 and they're about to walk right into the bathroom area where I am washing my hands, and I don't want her to scream. And so I just say, "Vicky, I'm here," and the heels stop, like she should be standing right in the doorway. And I turn and I look, and there's nobody there. And then I'm like, okay, now I know somebody's fucking with me. And I look behind the bar, and there's nobody there. And I walk behind the stage, and Freddie's still on stage talking. And I look behind the curtain, and I know everywhere to look because
Yeah.
I've hidden up there and done that ghost thing too.
Yeah.
And there wasn't anybody. Then
Wow.
another time, I was sitting in the green room at the end of the night, or I was sitting over by the bottom of the steps that go up to the sound booth.
Oh, creepy.
And there's that little door that goes to the cover booth in the main room. That
Yeah.
it was always
Yeah,
open
the
up.
back door.
Right.
Yeah.
That door is always open because it sticks on the carpeting. So you have to really like push it shut. It doesn't, close all the way. And it doesn't even, the handle doesn't even turn or anything.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there and, end of the night, wrapping up. I was just writing a few things down on the lineup before I went into the office and left. And I heard somebody come into the main room. So I just got up and I looked around the corner, and just somebody going in to use the bathroom. And then I turned back around to sit down, and I realized that door was completely shut within like a second.
Whoa.
And the handle was turned. And it took me, I could barely get the handle undone because I opened it immediately because I thought for sure somebody's going to be right on the other side. I will have caught them because it happened so fast they can't have gotten away.
Right.
Nobody there. I ran there into the front cover booth. Nobody there.
Weird.
And then the weirdest thing, and this is when I actually did see something,
Wait, who was the lady one though? That wasn't
What
Gus.
ghost is that?
What
Is
ghost
Gus a
that?
cross-dresser?
No.
He might have
There was
decided to put the
there
shoes
was
on.
there was a lady that was here doing an outside produced show that was
Oh.
using the dressing room who saw Gus.
Oh,
That's what I meant.
I see.
Yeah, it was like there was a band here one night
Yeah.
performing because they'd rented out the main room for since it was empty so often.
Yeah.
But Sacred Ground, where we don't go to smoke pot, as I always say, the door to Sacred Ground has a little window in it. And Sacred Ground is the alley behind the building where everybody relaxes and hangs out in between their sets. And I was walking back there, and I noticed somebody with a white hoodie standing up against the door. So I started to open it slow, and I could see through the door. They moved up towards the edge of the hill. And as the door was swung completely open, and you'll appreciate this, what I realized was it wasn't a person in a white hoodie. It was if you could blow a bubble in the perfect outline of a human and then fill that bubble with smoke. That's what I saw. And it stopped about 12 inches from the ground. It didn't touch the ground.
What?
Which the ghost hunters who I talked with for my Halloween show, they said that's what they call an entity, which means it could be a spirit from a house up in the hills or from the club next door or the hotel next door. It's not connected to our building because it's literally not it's hovering above the ground. But as I got the door completely open and this thing moved, back from me, I stepped out into the alley. And it was like the edges of the balloon popped, but all the smoke stayed in the exact same shape, outline of a human, and it solidly just floated down the alley back towards where the kitchen fan is and all that stuff. And I looked and I saw this thing going down the alley, and
I
I
must
just
be high as fuck. Right
Yeah,
now.
that's some good shit.
honestly,
I
and
didn't even smoke yet. That's why I came out here.
yeah, and
Come here, you little shit. Let me smell. Let me inhale you. Gosh.
And when I turned around and ran, because I ran inside, because I just, it's weird. Your brain knows, okay, I can't have seen what I just saw.
Yeah.
But what did I see? Because I know what I saw.
That's insane.
But it can't be what I think it is. Anyway, so I turned around and just booked it. And Tony Hinchcliffe, one of our comics, one of the top young rising comics.
he was on last week. Or week before.
Tony was walking out, and I literally pushed past him. And then a couple hours later, I happened to be talking with Tony, and he's like, "What happened earlier when you were coming out from the Sacred Ground?" So I told him, and he said, "Okay, you're not going to believe this. I was working the phones this afternoon upstairs in the belly room, and I went to use the bathroom." And he said, "I walked around the corner," and he said, "Exactly like you explained it, a bubble in the exact outline of a human with moving smoke inside it was standing just inside the men's room up in the belly room." And he turned the corner, saw it, and he was like, "Okay," and just turned back and walked away.
my
And Tony
God.
doesn't believe at all. He's
Yeah.
not a believer in ghosts
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
But so we both saw basically the same thing on the same day.
Yeah.
And confirmed, at least for ourselves, I can't prove to anybody that we saw what we saw, but
Yeah.
we the two of us were able to confirm,
Yeah.
holy fuck, we did see something
Yeah.
that is just not supposed to be seen or
That's
not
so funny
supposed to
that you
be
said
real.
because it sounds like something Tony was like. What'd you see over there? Did you see? Why
Oh
did you-
yeah, because he wasn't gonna. He could tell. He said
Something
that I looked really
like you saw a ghost.
Yeah,
literally.
yeah.
Yeah.
He said you looked really scared.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'll tell you, and like I said, the smoke inside the bubble was moving. It's like if you blew a bubble in a perfect outline of a human, then
Yeah.
put a straw into it and blew smoke into the bubble. So there was moving smoke, but it was captured in this outline. And then the edges just popped, and it sort of, the smoke stayed just soft, but in a
Yeah.
solid shape. It didn't dissipate.
Yeah.
It stayed in its solid form and went down the alley. And as it went down the alley, it started to sort of, vanish
Yeah.
a little. But yeah,
I don't know. I
crazy.
believe this place does attract some crazy for sure, and it's an old building. I feel
Yeah,
like it's
it was built in the-
energies more than I can explain or understand.
There was a club here before Ciro's.
What?
In 1995, the main room only, just the main room, the way it is right now, that was called Club Savell.
What year was it? 1905 or
1935.
1935.
35.
Wow,
And so
okay.
the mob bought Ciro's.
Seville.
They bought Club Savell and gave it $1 million makeover. And on December 31st of 1939, they opened it. And it was a private club. It wasn't open to the public for the first 2 years. But yeah, it's an old building. And, with the mob guys,
A
there's
lot of
there's
crazy
on the
negative shit happened.
Yeah.
Here.
Oh, they would-
A lot of people died down
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, they would collect their bills, and up on the third floor, there's a Paulie's old offices up there. There's on the side of the wall that faces the alley behind the building. There's two doors, just normal wood-sized doors.
Very strange. That
And-
lead to nothing.
Well, there used to be a plank on the roof above that, and they would lift the liquor.
Booze.
They would the liquor would come up to the third floor and stay. And back then, the third floor was the only floor that had bars on it, on the windows. But they would hoist the
That's
liquor to the
hilarious.
third floor to keep it safe. And
Yeah.
if the mob guys didn't feel like physically hurting somebody, they'd take him up there and say, just step into the office, I'll be in a second. And since there were no lights back in the alley in those days, that was a pitch black, dark drop, 35 feet. And you
Jesus.
just broke your legs.
Boo.
And they're like, now pay your bill.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So, no wonder there's a lot of creepy energy
It makes
associated with that
sense.
area.
Yeah. Or even to know that fact, just brews up some weird shit too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I put a bunch of the videos and the history of stuff that I made for the Halloween show. I put it up on my YouTube channel.
You did? Okay.
Which is
well, we're getting ready
Jeff
to
Scott
wrap this up.
Entertainer.
Jeff Scott the
Already?
Entertainer.
Are we?
Yeah.
And the watermelon hasn't even been smashed.
I mean,
Yeah.
we have like 5 more minutes left, but yeah, Jeff, that's insane. And like I said, I love the fact that you've been here, and I feel like such a connection with you. And I'm like, people don't. You're like gold here. You really are, and everybody loves you, and everybody knows you, and
Aw,
you're just
no,
a point
thank
of
you.
reference to everybody. Like I feel like if I show people this place, I have to have them meet you too.
Mitzi very nicely referred to me as her social butterfly.
Aw.
Because Mitzi would do what I do. That's
Yeah.
where I learned it. She'd walk around in between the comics and talk to the people. How's your night? Are you enjoying yourselves? As much as people think that she was this behind the scenes businesswoman, she was there hands
She
on.
loved the place. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so, when she couldn't get around as much, I started doing that. And, she asked me to be talent coordinator 7 times.
Jeez.
And they're like, you can still play piano. I'm like, oh, sure, I can just move in the parking lot and live here. Also, I don't want a day job.
Yeah.
But even though I didn't take the talent coordinator job, she would often call me at home and ask me who did how much time and stuff. So I started on my own,
Just
keeping the
writing
lineup, writing the times of the comics, just
Yeah.
like they do in the cover booth to send to the talent coordinator. And I email mine to Adam every week. And, he's like, it's such a good help, he said, because there's the 2 pair of eyes, and I might be trying to find a comic, and the door girl might be trying to pay, get customers tickets.
Right.
And so, oops, how long did he do? Well, one of us is going to know it, something like that.
Right. Why does he want to know how long? If people take too
Yeah,
long?
do people
or-
get penalized if they run the line?
Well, yes, technically. Mitzi would. Oh, you'd get banned. You just got banned, period. You didn't even get a, hey, why don't you take a night off? It would be like, oh, we'll see you in 6 months.
For,
Yeah.
Or
were there,
3 months for
she have
for doing
exceptions?
long.
Like, or would
No.
she just be like,
A few guys, but most not. And if somebody wasn't doing well, no
Yeah.
matter what their time was, she would tell them to. She'd call me over from the piano, and she'd have me go to the cover booth and light them. I had to tell them to light Eddie Griffin once because he was doing super long. He was like at 30 already, and
God.
he didn't know Mitzi had come into the room. And they lit him, and he kept going. And at like 40 or so, I get the call from Mitzi, come over, and I'm like, yeah. And she's like, play him off. And I'm like, oh my God, play off Eddie Griffin. He's going to kill me. Play him off. Okay. So I did wait till he had finished the joke.
Yeah,
I didn't just, and then I played him off. And he's like, blankety blank words that white people can't say. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
And I said, Mitzi's here, and she said you're doing long, so you need to wrap it up. Oh yeah, I'm Eddie Griffin. Peace out. And boom, he went right off like that.
Well, he's
So-
notorious for that, like doing
Oh, yeah.
like 3 hours and stuff. Like this is when it was slower here.
Yeah. I mean,
But it's
on a
so
night like
rude to
that,
other people that
if we
wanna
had
go up.
40 people, we were like, oh my God, we're packed.
Yeah.
In a showroom that sits 165, 170.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it is kind of fucked up, not just to the other comics, but to the audience
Mm-hmm.
because they
There was a
come
night-
for a different kind of show.
Yeah. There was a night when Eddie went on second on a Friday. Didn't get off till 3 or so. I don't know. I left.
3 in the morning? Holy
Yeah,
shit.
he did the entire show.
Jesus.
He went on second and did the entire show. And I remember tons of people asking, are we going to get to see the performers that are on the lineup? And we're like, oh, well, yeah, I don't. And people asked for their money back and just were leaving. But at that time, he had gotten Mitzi to agree to letting him go on whenever he wanted.
'Cause
Or
he was
Mitzi had,
popular at the time.
yeah.
or-
I mean, Mitzi had told him that, but I don't think she meant as long as you want. Also,
Right.
Yeah, like, get
But
it flew.
if he came in, we were supposed to put him on in the next
Yeah.
opening.
Wow.
You know.
I think I saw his name like in Vegas, like because my parents lived there. I'm like, oh, this
Yeah,
fucker's
that's
still
where he's
performing there.
Oh yeah,
huh?
yeah. He's still.
Yeah. So what
I mean, he's a
happened? Why did
hell
he?
of an
Why did he?
entertainer. There's no doubt about that.
I
It's
mean,
just
I
he's a
imagine.
stage whore.
Yeah, he's a stage whore. I get it. But why did he leave here? Like, just because Vegas came calling, or
No,
do you
it
know?
was changing of the guard. You've been here too long and you're doing too much time, and
They kicked him out. They
yeah.
were just like, no.
Yeah, he
Okay.
got banned and never came back. And he's
happened to a lot
come
of
in.
people, huh?
Yeah, he's come in a few times, like 2 that I can think of in the past. I don't know, 5-6 years. Walks around and nobody knows who he is.
Who he is? Oh
right,
my God.
right. Security asks, "Can I help you, sir?"
Can I see your ID, sir?
And it's just like,
Motherfucker.
Yeah.
Was he in movies and stuff? See, I
Oh
don't even
yeah,
remember
tons
what
of
he
movies.
was doing at the time.
Yeah,
in the
yeah. He's done
90s.
movies with Chappelle and
I know the name. I just can't picture his fucking face for some reason.
he was in Meteor Man
Oh yeah,
with
Meteor Man.
Robert Townsend.
I'll
That's a
look him up.
forgotten movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just on
Great
TV
movie.
last weekend. That's the only reason I remember it.
Here we go.
But yeah, we'd get to be because Mitzi had also said the dice could go on when he wanted. So they were challenging each other. Who could get to the club first and who could do
I
more
know
time?
exactly who it is now.
You
Yeah.
know,
I
and
just
I
saw
think
pictures.
they would do like an hour, but then Eddie started doing 2 hours and then 3 and then did the whole night. Dice never did that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
too
Dice
much.
might have done a whole hour,
Yeah.
but that was it. He didn't
Yeah.
do the whole show.
Yeah,
He, he was not that.
It's like, hey, it's my
disrespectful.
time.
Yeah.
It's been an hour. You gotta fuck your mother. Sorry, Dice. He doesn't listen to this shit. Yeah. All right.
Yes.
All right, we gotta wrap this up. Jeff, thank you
Cool.
for coming
Oh,
and
you're
telling us
welcome.
all
Thank
the
you,
stories.
thank
You got to
you.
come back again. It's always
Absolutely.
fun. I love having you on, and it's fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And where can people find you? Jeff Scott on YouTube.
I think I'm Jeff Scott Entertainer
Okay.
on YouTube. They could also check Haunted Midnights on YouTube.
Haunted Midnights.
And
Okay.
then I'm Jeff Scott Entertainer on Facebook.
Okay.
And I've got the Comedy Store Archives and the Ciro's Nightclub on Historic Sunset Strip are my 2 pages that I post. The
Nice.
Ciro's one, if people want to look at that stuff, I've got over 3,000
It's
I
photos.
so
love
in there.
that
cool.
one.
It's
Yeah.
my favorite.
Awesome. Because you can see so much about how the club
Well,
looks,
yeah.
you
And
know?
when you look
Maybe
at those.
we'll tag them on when we post it. Post
I was
the
gonna
thing.
say,
Yeah.
at the very
Tag all
least
of
on YouTube, I'll put a link to your YouTube so people can check it out.
Because
Yeah.
the only difference in the main room is it used to be all white and now it's all black. But the high rounded ceiling and that
Yeah.
lattice work and the curvy stuff
Yeah.
in the back, that's all Ciro's. I
Yeah.
mean, if somebody from the Ciro's days walked in here,
Yeah.
it would take them a second, but once they got into the main room, they'd be like, oh, I know where I am. I recognize this. You know, it hasn't changed that much in
Insane.
all the
And
years.
then
Yeah.
they see Gus.
Yeah.
Hey, he's
Like,
still
there it
They
is.
shit their
here.
pants.
Yeah, but you also had a picture of when they were remodeling the wall. There was wallpaper,
wallpaper,
from Ciro.
yeah.
Oh,
Green
up in the
one.
belly room. Yeah, because the
Yes.
belly room used to be called the Ciroette room.
Okay.
And it was a private little room where, you know, like I have a picture of Frank Sinatra sitting up there. And it had this crazy old Chinese wallpaper behind the mirrors when they took. That was just this year or last year, I think, when they
It was very
replaced those.
recent.
It was
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah, and I got like
Super cool.
3 panels of that wallpaper. Somebody told me that considering the era, I should maybe put it in a matte frame or something because there might be a weird type of dye that they used for the colors back then, like arsenic or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
What's the
oh,
other
this is
stuff in
good.
the ceilings, the wall?
Asbestos.
It's probably
Asbestos.
asbestos
Yeah.
lined or something.
Probably
Yeah, for
something like
sure.
that. How did he die? From
Yeah.
all the dust of all his collections.
I think we're good, man.
Well, happy Halloween. Thank you so much
Happy
for
Halloween
having
to
me.
you, Jeff.
Thank
We
you.
3 trolls.
Thank you.
Keep on trolling.
Yeah.
Woo.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank
That
you.
is super cool.
I'm sorry,
wish
I
we could-
can't talk enough
say, I
once
wish
you
we
get me
could-
going.
No,
I
that's
wish we could
exactly
get it.
what you
I wish
want-
we
we
had more
wanted you to
time.
do.
Next time we'll have more time.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of questions to ask too.